In Darwin's time, the cell was thought to be pretty simple, a little blob of protoplasm, pretty much jelly. And so many thinkers of that age supposed that life could arise pretty easily, spontaneously, and then maybe forces could shape it in this way and that way. So Darwin's theory of natural selection acting on random changes, random variations in nature, seemed pretty plausible given the level of knowledge of biology 150 years ago. But biology has made a lot of progress since then, and we have uncovered the depths of life and can see inside the cell now. We can find out what it was like. It was a black box to Darwin and his contemporaries. And what science has found is that there are machines in there, literally machines made out of molecules, little trucks and buses that take supplies from one side of the cell to the other. They're little signposts made out of molecules that signal whether the truck or the bus should turn right or turn left. And there's information in DNA. None of this was known to Darwin or his contemporaries. An interesting question is, what would Darwin think of all of this? Would he change his mind? Would he have refrained from proposing his theory in the first place? Well, that's interesting, and of course it's very speculative. It's essentially saying, what if Darwin knew that inside the cell there were little molecular watches and other machinery that William Paley would point to as evidence of design? Well, he might have hesitated a bit more, but his intellectual descendants have kind of gradually accustomed themselves to taking the complexity of the cell for granted and thinking that, somehow it would slowly be put together in a Darwinian-like fashion. So it seems that whenever new information comes along slowly enough, then people stick to their old ideas and just try to stuff new findings into the same old theory if they can't think of anything better to describe it, or if the thing they can think of to describe it better is for some reason philosophically unacceptable to many of them. So if Darwin suddenly had a flash of imagination and saw the complexity of the cell in his day, he might have backed off from his theory. But in the modern age, his intellectual descendants have no trouble thinking that his theory still holds, but they do so without any real explanations for how Darwin's theory could make all of that sophisticated machinery. It's a lot of mental inertia. The scientific community has been thinking one way for a long time, and it's very reluctant to accept ideas that imply there's something beyond nature that has affected it. And so they continue forward with the same idea, even though the very basis of life is radically different than what Darwin and his contemporaries thought.